Well, hello, friends. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Why? Because we know that God is going to work everything out for our good as He orders our steps each minute of the day. God has a plan for us, and if we'll just follow that, even if it's uncomfortable, we'll find ourselves sitting in the winner's circle at the end of the day today. Hey, well, welcome to Tuesday's edition of Take 5. Good to be with you today. This week we are dealing with the subject we've called Faith Like Noah. And so yesterday we began looking at what it takes to have faith like this man Noah. He is my Bible idol, my Bible character idol, if you'll permit me to say that. Jesus is number one, of course, but man, Noah ranks way on up there as one of my favorite Bible characters because of his faith. He was steadfast. He was committed. He endured until the end. And I think that's one thing that we're missing today is the ability to endure like Noah endured. Now, yesterday we learned some pretty good facts about the antediluvian period of time. That was that 15 to 1600 years from the time of creation up until the time of the great flood. And we learned that mankind was evil. Yet that period was not without a group of people that did love God and had faith in God. And Noah was one of those. As a matter of fact, in the middle of all of the chaos of sin during that age, when God finally decided that enough is enough and He's going to wipe mankind out because of his sin, the Bible said that Noah found grace in the eyes of God. Now, there have been those over the years that have said that this was an unfair judgment by an unjust God. I mean, let's think about it for a moment. He's going to wipe the whole society of mankind out, but He's going to allow Noah, his wife, his 3 sons and their wives, those 8 people, He's going to allow them to live. And many people have the idea that God has favorites and God is not just and God is not right. Well, all you have to do is search the scriptures just a little bit and you can find out that God is very just. This idea of Him being unfair, as it were, could not be farther from the truth. In fact, the people during this age, this antediluvian period, they had no excuse for their rebellion against God. They knew God's way of righteousness and they knew that He justly punished sin. Noah apparently knew this also because he and his family had chosen to do what was right and be pleasing in the eyes of God. This is why he found favor and grace. All you have to do is look at the history of the men that lived before the flood, and you can see that God was just in making this judgment on the earth and had every right in the world to do so. Those people that lived during that era are without excuse, and I want to prove it real quick. Now, some of the things we're going to mention, we'll talk about them in more detail next week, but this is worth mentioning today so that we understand that God was right in making the decision that what He did, and that men knew that God would judge sin. We know this one thing for a fact, that the institution of the sacrifice had been in place, we know, at least since Cain and Abel, because you remember those two were bringing their sacrifices to God, and they had been given instructions on how to do it according to God's plan. And God even told them, if you do what I'm telling you, then there's blessing. But if you don't, then sin lies at the door. Well, they had a choice to make. Abel made the right choice. He brought the sacrifice that God wanted. Cain chose to bring one of his own doings. He chose to do it his way. God was pleased with Abel. He was not pleased with Cain. We see both of them had the opportunity to make the right choice. Cain chose not to do that, and God was displeased with him, and Cain became so angry at God and at his brother that he killed his brother there. So we see that the sacrificial system was in order and that there was a way to do it because God had given instruction. So we understand that this itself proves that mankind was aware of God's righteousness and of His judgment. Don't forget about Adam now. Adam lived 930 years from the time that he was removed, he and Eve removed from the Garden of Eden. He lived 930 years, and you better know that he spent many days telling the story of how they used to live in paradise and in perfection, but because of sin, they were removed from that relationship and fellowship that they had with God. So again, this proves that mankind was aware that God is righteous and God will judge sin. Then there was the preaching of Noah's great-grandfather Enoch. The Bible said that Enoch declared, "Behold, the Lord is coming with 10,000s of His holy ones to execute judgment on the ungodly." This proves that mankind was aware. It's also believed that Enoch preached about the coming flood and predicted that it would happen as a means of God judging the world. When Enoch was 65, he had a son by the name of Methuselah. I guess the name John was already used up and he had to come up with some crazy name like Methuselah, but he named him Methuselah, and that comes from two Hebrew words that when put together means that when he is dead, it will come. Methuselah lived 969 years, and just a couple of days after he died, the flood came on the earth. This proves that mankind was aware that God is righteous and that He will judge sin. On top of all of this, there's the ministry of the Holy Spirit. In Genesis 6:3, God said, "My spirit won't always strive with man." So the Holy Spirit was busy striving with sinners, doing His work of conviction in their hearts. Not to mention that Noah was not just some carpenter that God commanded to build a boat. According to 2 Peter 2:5, Noah was a preacher of righteousness. So before he ever began building this ark, Noah preached about the righteousness and the judgment of God. This proves that during that antediluvian age, God was not unjust. He was not unfair in judging mankind as He did. Mankind knew that God was righteous and that He would judge sin. There's absolutely no excuse. So we must lay that to rest. Men during that time knew, and can I tell you, in this parallel world that we live in today, men today are without excuse also. They know that God is righteous, they know that God is just, and they know that God will judge sin. They know that, but they are just ignoring it, just like people in that day. That's why I think this study is so imperative, because what we need are some Noahs that will have the faith that this man did during that period today. We need some people that will do it today. So that's what we're going to talk about Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're going to talk about Noah's faith, and we're going to talk about Noah's fear, because both of them are necessary so that we can understand the kind of man that Noah was. Well, hey, I got to get out of here. It's been good being with you today. I look forward to being with you tomorrow on Wednesday's edition of Take 5. Until then, God bless you and have a great day.